This is the Holy Gospel according to St. Matthew, the 25th chapter. Jesus said to the disciples, "For it is as if a man going on a journey summoned his slaves and entrusted his property to them. To one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, to another 1, to each according to his ability. Then he went away. The one who had received the 5 talents went off at once and traded with them and made 5 more talents. In the same way, the one who had 2 talents made 2 more talents. But the one who had received the 1 talent went off and dug a hole in the ground and hid his master's money. After a long time, the master of those slaves came and settled accounts with them. Then the one who had received the 5 talents came forward, bringing 5 more talents, saying, 'Master, you handed over to me 5 talents. See, I have made 5 more talents.' His master said to him, 'Well done, good and trustworthy slave. You have been trustworthy in a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Enter into the joy of your master.' And the one with the 2 talents also came forward, saying, 'Master, you handed over to me the 2 talents. See, I have made 2 more talents.' His master said to him, 'Well done, good and trustworthy slave. You have been trustworthy in a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Enter into the joy of your master.' Then the one who had received the 1 talent also came forward, saying, 'Master, I knew that you were a harsh man, reaping where you did not sow and gathering where you did not scatter seed. So I was afraid, and I went and hid your talent in the ground. Here you have what is yours.' But his master replied, 'You wicked and lazy slave. You knew, did you, that I reap where I did not sow and gather where I did not scatter? Then you ought to have invested my money with the bankers, and on my return I would have received what was my own with interest. For to all those who have, more will be given, and they will have an abundance. But from those who have nothing, even what they have will be taken away. As for this worthless slave, throw him into the outer darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth.'" This is the gospel of the Lord, and you may be seated. So I have a new fear. I'd like to share with you what that fear is. I have a fear of getting older. I know you're all laughing at me, saying, "You're just a young whippersnapper. You haven't seen nothing yet." But I've started to see a few things about getting older, and it's not fun at all. I was lying on the couch the other day, and Paul comes bounding into the room, like Tigger, just comes bouncing into the room. And out of the blue, he looks at me and he says, "Dad, you're old." I said, "Paul, I'm not that old." "Yes, you are. You're always taking naps. And now you take your glasses off when you need to read something. That's really funny. Why do you take your glasses off, Dad?" And then he said, "And Mom told me that you're going to turn 40 in March, and we're going to get you 40 black balloons. And Dad, I think you need to get a Darth Vader cake, because Darth Vader is black, and you need a black cake for your 40th birthday. Thanks a lot, Paul." So if that's not a good enough reminder, I will continue on. So a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, I'm in my car, and I turned my head around, something I've done 1,000 times to make sure that there was nothing behind me. And all I did is I turned my head around, and I had this shooting pain go across my back. It was the weirdest thing in the world. All I did was move my head. And I thought, if there's more of this, I don't want it, because this is not fun. And then I'm driving to my destination, and for no good reason, I start to have back pain. Do you ever get that, driving in the car out of nowhere? And you have back pain. It was horrible. And it wouldn't go away. And I tried adjusting my seat and doing all those things. Luckily, I have a bottle of ibuprofen in my car, and so I took some ibuprofen, and it felt better after some time. But It was a horrible experience. And then I got to my destination, and I got out of the car. I kind of twisted myself out of the car, and I had this shooting pain go across my hip. It was the weirdest thing in the world. It just keeps happening. And like I said earlier, normally I wear my glasses, and I've been taking my glasses off to read. But lately I've been wearing my contacts the last few days. And I went to sit down to read a magazine. I think it was maybe Wednesday or Thursday. And I'm opening up the magazine. It was Time magazine, small print. And the words started to kind of go in and out, and it was all blurry. And you ever have that? It was a horrible experience. I couldn't read anything. And it was then and there I decided, you know what? I've got to do something about this. And I can't bury this fear any longer, this fear about getting older. I'm going to do something about this. So then I put on my baseball cap, and I put on a big jacket, and I drove to Walgreens. And I snuck into Walgreens. I made sure I had enough cash because I didn't want to use a credit card because I didn't want them to track back my purchase. So we go into the back corner of Walgreens, and I try on a few of these reader glasses. Do you know about these? These are incredible. And I put them on. Whoa! It was like a world had opened up to me, and suddenly I could read things, and it was the coolest experience. I didn't need to be afraid. I just needed to tackle these problems head on. So then I was inspired. I've also been having knee pain as well. And I remember my father-in-law said that glucosamine is a wonderful thing for joint pain. And so then I went and I got glucosamine, and I had one of the clerks help me pick out some glucosamine. And she said, well, it's not unusual for a man of your age to begin a glucosamine regimen. And so I bought my glucosamine and my glasses, paid with cash, and my world has been opened. Maybe it's psychological, but I already feel like my pain has gone away. And then I went to the doctor, and I told the doctor about my strange aches and pains, and he said, that is normal. It's a part of getting older. And you're going to want to check in with me more and more as you get older. Getting older is really not a fun thing, and I have great fear of it. But you know what? You've got to tackle those fears head on and continue to invest in your life. What does that have to do with the parable of the talents? Well, the one slave that I really, really relate to in this gospel story is the one that was afraid of the master. He had this great fear, and so he decided to bury his talent. That's the guy I really relate to. And I have this great fear of getting older, and I wanted to bury the fact that I'm getting older and not admit to it. But you know what? Amazing things happen when you invest in a pair of glasses, for example, or go to the doctor, and things can be open for you. You can see more clearly. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I'd like to explain a little bit more about this parable that we have for today. It's called the parable of the talents. And a talent is a unit of measurement. And a talent, it depends on where you were located. There's the Roman talent and the Greek talent, all these different types of talents. And they all had different weights. But we're going to go with a nice even 75 pounds. So a talent would have been around 75 pounds of something. So this slave owner is going to go on this journey, right? And he entrusts his property to these three different slaves. To the first one, he gives him 5 talents, which would have been 5 times 75. I don't know what that is. I can't add that up in my head. You see, I'm getting older, so my brain doesn't work. My brain doesn't work as well. But 5 talents would have been a lot. And say that would have been 5 talents of gold. We're talking like millions of dollars that this person, this slave, was entrusted with. The next one was entrusted with 2 talents. So it would have been a huge amount of money, millions of dollars. And then the third one was entrusted with 1 talent. And that would have been a little over $1 million or so. If we're talking about talents of gold, if it was silver, it still would have been a lot of money, but perhaps not as much. So the first one goes out, he invests his 5 talents, and he gets 5 talents back. The second one invests 2 talents and gets 2 talents back. The third one is afraid. And so he decides to bury the talent. Now, I don't know about you. I'd love to think that I would be like one of the first 2 slaves, the one with 5 and the one with 2. But I think I probably would have been like the third guy, the one that was afraid. Here's over $1 million and thinking, I don't want to lose this, so I need to hold on to this. I need to bury this talent. I think I probably would have been like that guy, being afraid, instead of investing that talent. But this gospel calls to us to do something, to invest in what we have in this life, invest in this life. For you see, the life that we have, that each of us has, is more valuable than anything you can ever possibly imagine, more valuable than 5 talents, than 2 talents, than 1 talent. It's a huge, huge thing that we have, this thing called life. And God calls us to invest in our life. God calls us to invest in the lives of one another. And that can be a really scary thing to do, to invest in our life and to take chances. But God calls us not to bury our head in the sand, but go out and to invest in ourselves and to invest in one another. Now, in our own church, I have seen amazing things happen when we invest in each other and when we invest in this congregation called Christ the King. I also had a very great fear, another fear, about a year ago when I was called here as your senior pastor. And that was the fear of this debt, of the finances that we had here in our congregation. And I kind of wanted to just bury my head in the sand and bury the issue and not even really pretend, and to kind of pretend it wasn't even there. But I knew that wasn't the right thing to do. I knew we had to bring that issue to light and to talk about it as a congregation. And so we did that as a council, we did that as a congregation. And we decided to invest in this congregation and to invest in one another. And so we had this capital campaign that we put together. And we put together some amazing leaders, and we set to work, working to raise funds to help refinance our mortgage and to help pay down the principal of our loan. And through all of those conversations, the goal was $500,000 that we needed to raise. And I was afraid that we weren't going to get there. And as I would go to bed at night, I would think about it a lot and think about, are we going to be able to do this? Are we going to be able to raise this $500,000 to be able to refinance our loan and to secure the financial future of our congregation? And we set to work and had the campaign, and the campaign went extremely well along the way because of all of you, because of this congregation. And Commitment Sunday was a few Sundays ago, and we had almost reached our goal by the end of Commitment Sunday. And now we're at $650,000 that we have committed to this campaign, which is truly remarkable. We invested and got those talents back here in this congregation. It's pretty remarkable. So because of that, because of the hard work of all of you, and it was everybody stepping up, people that hadn't pledged before are suddenly pledging. It's pretty remarkable. It's amazing what can happen when we invest in one another, when we invest in our congregation. We receive back tenfold, at least it seems that way. And there's also a new spirit within our congregation, even more important than the finances. And because we have done this capital campaign, we're able to shore up our financial future here in this congregation. And there's a new spirit as well in our church as we move forward. But we can't continue to bury our heads in the sand. We need to keep moving. We need to keep moving forward. And now that we've secured the financial future of our congregation, we move forward and reach out with the good news of the gospel. We continue to invest in each other and invest in this community. And I know amazing things will continue to happen as we invest in one another, invest in the gospel, and invest in this congregation. I have been absolutely amazed by all of you, and I do not have any fear for this congregation. This is a wonderful place to be. You are all wonderful people, and I want to just congratulate all of you on a wonderful campaign and a wonderful place to be. So let's continue to move forward. Let's continue to invest in each other and invest in this congregation. We have nothing to fear. Amen.